Hi everyone, Martin from Salvo Migration here with another application and relationship timeline for a partner visa case that we've handled recently. So this is an example of a double grant, so a dual grant for a subclass 820-801 that was approved on the 21st of January 2023. Okay, so at the time of recording, streaming this, it's about a month and a half ago, roughly. And it's also an example of how we like, as a team, our firm policy is to try and avoid an offshore partner visa if we can. Okay, so this is the context of someone from India, someone that holds a passport from India, married to an Australian, and first securing tourist visas for the visa applicant, and in fact, in this case, also a dependent child of the visa applicant from a prior relationship. It's not mentioned in this timeline just because it's not necessarily that relevant to most of you, but that was in fact the case here. Securing a tourist visa first, and then the visa applicant and their child entering Australia, and then applying for an onshore partner visa. So that's the summary of the case in terms of the specific history and milestone of this relationship. So couple met back in July 2011, really long time ago. All right, introduced to friends. So you met in person a long time ago, and then introduced to each other friends in March 2016. Started living together in April 2019. Purchased a home overseas in November 2019. Fell pregnant in March 2020. Child born of the relationship in November 2020. Engaged our services in February 2021. So let me clarify my prior statement. This is an example of a case of an Australian sponsor's partner and child. So this is their biological child as well. Engaged our services in February 2021. We then worked with this couple to strengthen their relationship facts, but most importantly, submit a tourist visa first for the visa applicant and child, get them onshore, and then apply for the onshore partner visa, which was submitted in November 2021. Okay, so partner visa submitted in November 2021. Took about a year to receive a request for information. Typically, the request for information that we receive for cases that we handle will relate to perhaps a missing police clearance or an outdated clearance or something that's expired since processing, maybe an expired medical or a missing medical. More often than not, that's what we receive requests for rather than anything else. And then once that request was actioned, the partner visa was granted. The dual combined application was granted in January 2023, which was due to the long-standing length of this relationship at the time of application. So, date of application, November 2021. There's two common ways to get your double grant, and that is either if you're in a long-standing relationship prior to application, or if the application takes more than 2 years since you applied. So this didn't take 2 years from lodgement. So this was submitted in November 2021. It was decided in January 2023. So that's what we've got there, about 14 and a half months. So the double grant didn't come about because of the length of processing. It came about because of the department accepting that this couple were in a long-term relationship at the time of application. Now, long-term relationship is defined to be either together as in a de facto and or married relationship for 3 years prior to lodgement, or if there is a child of the relationship, as is the case here, 2 years prior to lodgement. Okay. Now, what sometimes happens though, what we find is that you can't always predict that outcome. We have had cases where we did not expect the double grant to come through because the couple may have been in a relationship for 3 years prior to lodgement, or in a relationship with a child for 2 years prior to lodgement. But we felt that perhaps we weren't able to show they were specifically in a de facto relationship for 3 years prior to lodgement, or 2 years with the child, or married for 3 years or 2 years with the child. However, we do find that sometimes case officers will just accept general length of relationship. So if you can demonstrate you've been in a mutually exclusive relationship for at least 3 years prior to lodgement, or 2 years if you have a child, even if your de facto documentation doesn't say you were de facto back then, every now and then you still see these double grants come through, which I do feel is what might have happened here, because this couple had been together for at least, well, I'm going to say close to 2 years prior to lodgement. But were we able to demonstrate de facto exactly 2 years prior or that far back? Most likely not, based on the milestones here and knowing this case specifically. So if you have a look at the kind of key milestones, the key date summaries on the bottom left-hand corner here, I'm going to say, the child was born 12 months prior to lodgement. They only obtained a lease a month prior to lodgement because we were able to secure a tourist visa for the applicant and the child. Really only started pulling their finances 26 days prior to lodgement. They had been cohabitating overseas 30 odd months prior to lodgement, but there was a period of separation since then. So the point really here is that this is the type of case, this is an example of, even though your de facto and or married relationship documentation may not strictly prove you've been in that type of relationship for 2 or 3 years, there may still be hope for the double grant. Conversely, though, we've had cases where you would say are better than this, better strength, better length of relationship prior to lodgement, can demonstrate they've been de facto cohabitating for 2 to 3 years prior to lodgement, depending again if there's a child or not, and you not get the double grant. So it can be a bit of a lottery, a bit of a coin flip. That being said, what I tend to say to couples when I speak to them that have been together a while is, I would say that generally it's more predictable than it is unpredictable. Okay, I would say that 75-80% of the time we can accurately assume and kind of predict, look, we think you guys will qualify for the double grant. Ultimately, that's at their discretion, but we think your facts qualify. We need to prove your facts, but your facts suggest that you will. And I'm 80% confident that that's going to happen, because the 20% is a random decision by a case officer that kind of disregards the length of relationship, and you only get the single grant and not the double. So let me just clarify. I'm not saying that I can give a probability of overall success. No one can guarantee the approval of a partner visa. I'm just saying that kind of historically, from all my years of experience and working in our team and all the cases that we handle every day and have submitted every year, that we tend to be more confident about being able to predict the double grant than not being able to predict the double grant. But the point is that you just don't know. And this is an example of a case where you probably wouldn't have bet your house that they were going to get the double grant, but they did. And this is a kind of a good news story, and ultimately, an example of a bit of the unpredictability in some of the decisions and processes here. But ultimately, this was a good, unpredictable outcome, and one that was favorable, clearly, to the applicant and the partner and the child of the relationship. So, a bit unique. This timeline image has an example of that tourist visa grant. I get that question a lot in terms of why do we avoid offshore partner visas. It's because we just can't predict the processing times for offshore partner visas. We feel that it is strategically the better decision to try a tourist visa, or perhaps more than once, to get a visa applicant on shore, because the upside is so large. And I talk about that in module 1 of Partner Visa Secrets. It's a training module, a training course. It's only available inside of our Facebook group. If you're watching this video in our Facebook group, it's in the guide section of the group. If you're watching this somewhere else, not in our Facebook group, you have to join the group first before you can watch the modules. And module 1, about the hour mark from memory, is where I talk about this strategy, these options for couples that are either apart or overseas together, and trying to get the applicant, here as quickly as possible. And generally, if your priority is to get the person here quickly, it's not going to be, applying for an offshore partner visa isn't congruent with that, because offshore partner visas just don't know how long they're going to take. Very unpredictable. Offshore tourist visas are a lot more predictable. The range of processing time is a lot shorter than the range of an offshore partner visa. So that's generally our advice. This is an example of how it would look, how it could work. And, plus this actually led to a double grant. So a double favorable kind of outcome here. So that's it from me. I hope this case study is helpful and valuable to some of you. As always, if you're interested in working with our team to secure your partner visa, please book your obligation-free roadmap call. There should be a link somewhere around this video to book your call with our team. And we'd love to learn a little bit more about your relationship to see how we can help. That's it from me, Martin from Salva Migration. Have a great evening. Bye-bye. Can't find the off button. Found it.